beginning of the pandemic, Pennsylvania doling out $1.6 billion in COVID relief. With the federal government planning more aid, concerns are rising about the destination of all this money. CBS 21's Michael Gorsegner is following the money, checking on the checks and balances for all of the cash.
Money flying off of the printer, with billions hitting the hands of people seemingly in need during the pandemic.
There's a lot of eyes on this. We want to make sure everything is done correctly. There's checks and balances to make sure that the funding just doesn't go out and we don't know what happened to it.
From CARES Act to CHIRP funding, $1.6 billion flowing through the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. Time of the essence, but accountability crucial.
We didn't win the lottery, and we can't spend these funds willy-nilly any way in which we feel like we want to spend them.
From what you've seen, do you have concerns that money is being misspent?
Oh, absolutely.
Pointing towards the state's recovery of $800 million on unemployment fraud last month, Representative Seth Grove worries about the amount of money flowing out the doors with taxpayers on the hook for any misspent cash.
It's a government-wide problem. The bigger the government, the more money you spend, the tighter internal controls you need to have moving forward.
It's a balancing act that we want to do that. We want to move fast, but we also have to ensure, transparency, responsibility, and oversight.
As a certified economic development organization, the York County Economic Alliance, in charge of distributing $21 million in CARES Act funding designated by the county. Businesses required to submit an application, the YCEA scoring the proposal, confirming eligibility, signing contracts with each company. On the back end, grant recipients filling out attestation forms showing the money was spent properly.
It's every individual, organization, business, nonprofit who has received funding has their own level of check and balance.
How can taxpayers be sure that this money is being used in the proper way?
We hope that they realize that we know what we're doing in terms of putting the money out. We work with organizations that really know what they're doing, that do this on a consistent basis.
At the state level, DCED answering to several layers of oversight. From the governor's office to the General Assembly to the Auditor General, each plays a role in making sure the money is correctly handed over.
It's my office's obligation and duty to audit those to make sure that things were done in accordance to the law.
Luckily, as of right now, we've not had any major issues, but we're always on the lookout for that.
And that keen eye needs to sharpen in the very near future. Funds from the American Rescue Plan anticipated to start hitting the streets in June. Pennsylvania in line to receive over $17 billion in federal funding between state and local governments and schools.
If you don't do your due diligence on the front end, you're doing taxpayers a disservice.
Starting with the PPP, moving to the CARES Act, and now the Rescue Plan, state leaders believing that all levels of government tightening up the process to try and avoid fraud. Avoiding the issue in the beginning, key to saving taxpayers big bucks.
Even if we identify who those individuals are and we try to get those funds back, we're going to get back pennies on a dollar.
And while it's not set in stone, the Auditor General looking forward to diving deep into this money to make sure those who need the help are the ones getting the aid.
With what you've seen, do you feel confident that the money that is being spent wisely?
I'd like to think so, but one of the things that we'll tell is once the funds are being spent, once the processes are looked at, and once the audits are completed, that will give the full picture.
Michael Gorsegner, CBS 21 News.
For now, the Auditor General is finishing up an audit of the waiver process from the early days of the pandemic. And once that's done, the General hoping to get the resources to dive into some of this pandemic spending.